That's all. Here we go. Jumbo, 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 Yantobo, Tobe, Sangere, Bada, Shazo, the Orasheva, Jide, Gemba, Kalo, Gura, Name, Bada, Menaji, Dumbo, Sanji, Jumden, Neve, Yawa, Shaya, Tupa, Chazelo, Junda, Gaze, Dumbo, Junde, de Jebo, Rajumbo, Yanda, Barzobe, Sange, de Bodo, Shavsu, Temporan, de Varjumbo, Jidin, Gembo, Givu, Kalu, Givu, Ebo, Adam, Menange, Dumbo, Sange, Shumden, de Vegewa, Jaja, Dumbo, Chazelo, Chudu, Jazo, Jewu, Dumbo, Junde, de Rajumbo, Yanda, Bodo, Sange, Rebana, Shavsu, Tempo, de Varjumbo, Jidin, Gembo, Givu, Kalu, Givu, Adam, Menange, Dumbo, Sange, Shumden, de Vegewa, Jaja, Dumbo, Chazelo, Chudu, Jazo, Jewu, Gande gane do jodande sajin de la gomba dumburne mane jede dina choje so deze ke ba kyula ja namda goma chodu zuzwa ishe jazo serge hambora tabo jede zona lame wa gombo jini kyula ja Senjo Dembo Chime Dawe Sendo Rawa Gyola Chota Yudu Jeno Sebo Sumaji Nyame Jinjin Gyola Chota Gombo Tuji Chedembo Tamji Kimbe Dembo Sona Yude Gyazo Jen Deji Chela Chota Dabe De Chota Wargyu Gewe Nyezo Le Chochin Chido dan jirgirba shigi shila jao shone chove la yonde lama dala shinji dambo yundende gindu la yang jao Diba jiyang neja jing gewa bunzum sobar gis rangi sene yonzu de dene sange debayim Karama rabri marmeta yuma sepa churdam Nilan lodan jindavu Duje chunan de garda Zonan de tamji sipayi Goban tone kiki ratde Nada chive la chule sive chole To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When a supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure body, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With a supreme Zion, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one Ganza thusness, I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that Dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path of liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community of the virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. a star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death. Samojobo Nilo number Tajin Bumbo Mabo the Dalayan Ranjing Tombar number Then Sangi to Tedan Demba Sharibu Janju Semba Semba Jimbo Baba Chiles Wanjula Tika Jimeso Rigibo Ramala Sharaki Baru Jimba Zamo Jeba Juba Duba Chita Labarja Tika Jimba Aju Semba Semba Jimbo Baba Chiles Wanjuki Sedan Demba Shalanan Demba Tika Jimeso Sharibu Rigibu Rigibu Mokanala Sharaki Baru Jimba Samo Jeba Juba Duba Didar number Tower Jade Bumbonga Bote Dalaya Ranjingi Tomba number Yanda Bar Jesus Tao Zubomba Tombani Zuzu Zule Tombani Shemaya Nomba Dele Ganzo Shemaya No Deshin Sorvadan Dishidan Dishidan number Sheba Nandomba Sharibu Didar Shudan Tombani Sinime Makeva Magava Tima Meva Tima Dan Chava Tiwa Meva Kawa Meva O Sharibu Dedawena Tomba Nila Sume Sorvame Dishime Dishiname Namasheva Mime Nawame Name Chime Lume Yime Zume Rame Chime Rume Rijame Jume Domigi Game Bane Igi Game Igi number Sheva Kanje Badu Yame Do Mariba Me Mariba Seba Me Kashime Kashi Sebe Badu Yame Do Dejendo Donga Wadam Kunjum Wadam Bobodan Lame Yishime Toba Me Madoba Yame Sharibu Dedawena Janju Semba Nantoba Mebi Shir Shiragi Baru Simba Latin Zine de Simla Triba Mejin Traba Mede Shinje Lole Shindo Dene Yangele Deve Tara Shindu Zundu Number Shubu Zange Danjigan Shiragi Baru Simba Latene Lana Meba Yanda Bar Zobe Janju Ngombar Zobar Sange Zodedawena Shiragi Baru Simbe Nga Riba Simbe Nga Lana Mebe Nga Minyamba Danyambe Nga Donga Tanjira de Shiva Shiva Nga Mizu Wena Demba Shiva Jade Shiva Givaru de Shiva Nga Me Bataya Gata Gade Gade Para Gade Para Sangade Bodhi Shari Jonjo Sembo Sembo Shimba Deda Shiva Givaru de Shimba Tomola Labar Chao Dene Chumden de Tingi Zendele Shinde Janju Sembo Sembo Shimbo Baba Shinde Se Wanju La Lexo Shishawa Shinde Lexo Lexo Rigi Dede Shindo Dede Shinde Shida Gigi Demba Shinde Shira Givaru Du Shimba Samo Achebar Jade Shinde Bona Gyanji Jirang Chumden Degi Degi Chika Tsene Sidan Demba Shada Dade Buddha Janju Sembo Sembo Shimbo Baba Jire De Wanju Dan Jeda Debe Kuru Deda Adam Midan Ama Yidan Chisar Chibe Jide Yiran De Chumden Deji Sumba Lamu Barate Page 11. Thus I have heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of monks and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena, called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, how should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond? And thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, you should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karma formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty, without characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karma formations, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes, up to no spheres of the mind. There are none of these, all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these, all the way up to there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, all bodhisattvas hold to the wisdom gone beyond, and because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. Buddhas who dwell in the three times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awakened to unsurpassed, most perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unequaled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as the truth, where there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed. Tayata Kanti Kanti Bharatin 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 O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. The profound wisdom gone beyond should be practiced exactly as you have said, and then the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, men, anti-gods, and spirits, their hearts full of joy.
장주 람림 다 대시에 고기 열었어다 당하랑도 딱 한다를 딱 안데 저 겔렘바다 말렘바다 가리임바 있나야 딱 한다 랑라 지 심지에 개월내 사회 제랑 만들었다 뭐 대화다 동에 셋다 대화다 동에 어다 되기 대화 대화다 동에 미들베게 딱 당가디나 당가 설계 지고 열어서
Now it is Sunday. Now it is Sunday, and the exposition of the Dharma is our object now, and the purpose underlying this Dharma exposition is always, as it is a path to enlightenment. Whether one accepts the Dharma or does not, whatever the case may be, once one has compulsorily acquired the physical aggregates, then follows necessarily the experience of satisfaction and dissatisfaction. And dissatisfaction we wish to avoid, and satisfaction we wish to find. This path then nevertheless becomes common to each and every one of us.
아무도 소화 대화생들은 아무도 간다. 되버디 소화 대화 미되버디 소화 동에 어떤 대니가 딱 미되베 소화 동에 생기디 아니 파다 까고야 되베 소화 대화생이 좀 죽고야 어다 니기 버루나가 아주 최 생기디 대시 디나는 야고래 해서
The feeling of satisfaction we desire, dissatisfaction we wish to avoid. That which we wish to avoid, then we must annul and eliminate. That which we desire, we must achieve, produce. And so the purpose of the Dharma.
다 근데 인류다 근데 다 근데 우유가 반드시 뭐 있나요? 다 간다 탑 반드시 지기요가 있나요? 다 줄을 대화 토비하게 탑이 지기요레스 동네세 탑지다 도어도 탑이 지기요레 이내 탑그 림바텔라다 림바 망고 변하다 무슨 변화도 즉 유용이 지도고 소외나 제발 있나요? 안에 수수고 나주고 다지 밀레 차샤바이나 만한주고 지도나라 아니 직파게 니마니마니메나 내가 지대에 강가로 수술을 대화지 토비에 탑시지다 능해지 마요에 탑시지 지기 요레스 옛날시 샘제도 저 이메나요 수수고 소야가 지도로 소와 대화지 토비에 탑시 소와 능해 마요 탑시 그러니까 지난 지과를 해서
Every breathing being, whatever species they are, is always employing methods for survival at every moment, endeavoring to find lasting satisfaction and to eliminate the pains to their lives. There are many methods, all sorts of methods for survival employed by these beings ordinarily in the world, in human society. Take any given person. Each day's activity is for the purpose of finding some contentment and avoiding pain. And so each day, any given person will be working for their survival. This is no different for all other living beings who are consumed in their survival to find some peace and eliminate pains in their lives. We all have this in common.
근데 제가 인류는 다 먼저 소화 대화다 동에서 다 간다 하게 소외가 대두고 그제 뒤토네 아니 냠내체를 받게 돼 용되기요 다 배당 아주 니마치기 대화지나야 아주 고고요래 아니 로직이 대화지네 아주 고고요래 미지치기 대화이나 고고요래 깨바치기 대화이나 고고요래 아니 때도 대화성이 그 고대시기야요 그래서 대화 강화 대외기 그배가 좀 받들라 다 그래서 온부터 펴봐 이번에 대화 그배가 좀 받는데요 그래서 디찬에 아니 간다 저기 냠내 디스틱 디나는 거요 그래서
So then a feeling of contentment, a feeling of pain, these animating all living beings informs then the Dharma, the practice of the Dharma in its stages, which are justified by the understanding that daily our activity is for finding contentment. Yearly, it is for finding contentment. Over a lifetime, it has been for finding contentment. And it will be too for an eon for finding contentment. And it is too for that lasting, stable contentment. And so the objective of the path with its stages suited to the many different predispositions of mind among us, this is what informs the practice of the Buddha Dharma.
어디를 저다니 다다 맞아 다 맞고 있다 다다 중앙도 최시 년체기 탑람 디스 배차샤바이나 아니 맞고 다 가르치기 열에서나 다 대화성이 열에 이 토비에 열에 이 토부고 열에 토비에 열에 어디 토비에 탄다고 아니 맞고 다 된대지 냠면 되지 쳐버려 토바 되지 쳐버려 삼바 되지 쳐버려 고바 되지 쳐버려 해서 다들 모두 치기 열에서
Then the explanation of the Dharma and listening to an explanation of the Dharma. Take it as the example, which informs us, instructs us into what we would do to find contentment, that there is contentment to be found, that that contentment must be achieved, that it is achieved through practice, and to that end, then one must study and one must contemplate and one must meditate, and so the introduction to the Buddha Dharma.
Oh yeah, that the Hindu that on the share chu Mingla Chanju Lamrim Chenmo. That Chanju Lamrim Chenmo is the Mazuke. And then on the top, there were so there were to be top Mangu Yuben Nane, top Chow to Juba, top Yaksho. And it didn't get that Mazu Lam Labdan by Yaksho. And it Suzuka Tapake Kanda, they were to be and they were Tartu do to Yuba. Oh, today Tamlam Laviagi. And that's you, Yamadin. Lobby with that Chanju Lamri Chambola loves Chanju Lamri Chambos, Chanju sitting Lamata, there was none, there was for the Giveaway. There was the Mingdela, Chanju Star. Oh, the day there was Chambu D, and it Tabe you're in your mother. Tabe you're not on this Togole. If Tony Togole, so what the getting to shake now, and that is a you are able.
And now the explanation is of the particular, the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. Among blisses, the supreme bliss is awakening itself. And this, the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, outlines the stages presented in the best manner possible for the achievement of the ultimate bliss, in the approaches to achieving contentment, supreme form of contentment. The ultimate form of contentment is the mind of awakening. And so it is that we ask, is it achievable? And how would it be achieved? And who will achieve it?
Oh, to send it. Then that Karichigorasna, that she said, that she shared the courage, the Tambudi, and then forget the Wadi, another subject, the Wadi, and it Mojuche, and it did Tobiac Lamte. Oh, yeah, they did Lam with a Mojuchi was that subject Tartu body, Changju singing it, there were Tamjig and there were Tartuba, there were Chobiwa, the Changju said. That the top we are that dinner, they were done that they share it, they were not that Tartu in a dinner, they were the banana, they were that Changju Chenmo, Changju Chung, the better than Yedu, they were Changju with Tarbasism, they were Chijung, Rebati, the Shikari. Chetan, they were the Lion, they were Chitang around the Chiting, Soeg, they were not like they were Yore, and then on the Lamrim on the shade, they were said it, and they were the Samegi, they was Samegi, they was. But they were doing the Chun, they were never best. Kaduna, Joe maybe, there was Toei, Lamji Shigi, Samegi, there was a VRS. Chetan, Tadanga took a Chidi come out, there was the magic, there were logic, there were my Kimu, want to give you a want to be they were busy shade, they did Sajik, there was, you are to the you. They were in the call Sajik, there was. That another Lamrim on the shade, they were to get among with shady, Samegi, they were called Kishigi or Resmus. You are maybe there was, Samegi, there was.
Then what would we do? In the context of the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, when we speak of enlightenment, this is the ultimate in contentment and ultimate bliss. It is the result to be achieved. And in the present text, the path to its achievement is presented. The ultimate in bliss is the supreme bliss that is awakening. And it is what we would achieve. But even among the ultimate in results, there is or are levels. The great bliss of the Mahayana awakening the lesser bliss of the Shravakayana awakening, there are here levels too. And then even in the worldly sense in which we speak of contentment and satisfaction, it is used only to describe what is actually contaminated satisfaction. That is, it is changing, not lasting, and inflected by suffering. But that result that is awakening is changeless, constant, uninflected by any suffering. The sense in which we use contentment and satisfaction daily is to say, I'm well, I'm content. They're well, they're seemingly content. This is only describing a changing state of affairs for them. This is a contaminated contentment, but the path shown here to awakening is the path to uncontaminated great bliss.
that's it. That's a jig dewa inera, samegi dewa inera, and you men and tribute dewa yungumare. Said that you dewa love me, and the tribute dewa tobachi.
Whatever the case may be, whether it's uncontaminated or contaminated, in any case, the causes for that contentment must be accumulated, and so one must strive for the causes.
Oh, yeah, that in a she pachu to the dunge, so dunge, you men and dunge yungumare. Said that dunge judian, Susagi or dunge san, and you do dunge yungu, said that dewa dunge karina yang, you dewa drum, debu dewa topore. You dunge sane, debu dung, you deba sane, and debu dunge. No, the young girl said, but you got you done debu, go down, take each other, dunge the dewa the young girl.
Now, likewise, in any other person, the contentment attributed to them may be attributed to them because they too have accumulated cause for that resulting experience. Where there is no cause, there will be no satisfaction resulting from it. Where there is no non-virtue as cause, there will be no suffering that results. Then this presentation will merge with a presentation of karmic causality as a law of nature.
Oh, that in the Hindu Zambata, Manzo Karitiore, Slana, that Manzula Deya, Deware. That they were too good. They were Dubala, they were you too good. Dunge, Tugumare, Tugumeva inata, Dungepa Kavas, Katu some Dunge Kandes Kavas, Dunge, Judipa Kamatona, Debu Dunge Katukumare, Seda, you depa the Pakane, Debu Dunge Katugre. You gave what the two doom, Debu de what the two do to or the Dinia made in Alamazo, that you would resonance.
That which we do not desire, the undesirable, is dissatisfaction, discontentment. And so the causes for discontents would be eliminated. We would intend to eliminate them if we wish to avoid the undesirable. And so too, that which we desire has its cause as well, then we would achieve those causes, accumulate those causes, if we are intent upon experiencing contentment. So then, how to accumulate the causes for contentment, how to bring an end to discontents. The elimination of non-virtues will lead to the annulment, the ending of discontents. And the accumulation of virtuous causes will cause the result that is contentment.
Oh, yes, says I'm down to number sit down, choose Shetan Chani, you may not choose from shitty, to choose shed, choose Shinigi, that of the pocket choose shag some. So the Shetan Chani, Demba she shit, Demba she none upon my gavison, Demba she none lot of shit to waters. 이 가르치네스라나 다 당보 대마 신앙의 시고야 균생 가서는 꼭 아주 그 냠내 지어야 되라 단다 공부 시험하다시 대화 룩 동해 빵 센스다 디난 로그레스 그다다 동해 빵 와라 동해기 규디파 내가 소고래 대화 룩발라 대외 규디 수 그거고요 세상 되게 만나라 용도 아니 대마시 냠내 나 아니 냠내 차상 대마시 냠내 나 레버 거래서
From the standpoint of the Buddhist, from the paradigm of the Buddha Dharma, in the beginning, in a practice of the Buddha Dharma, and afterward, every practice must be consistent with the four truths of the noble ones, and everyone contained within the four truths of the noble ones. So then when we practice two, the practice being simply to achieve contentment and abandon discontents, the causes of those discontents must be eliminated. The causes of contentment must be accumulated, and every activity therein would be consistent with the four truths of the noble ones.
Oh, yes. 이제 이제 아주 람림 게는 쳐있다. 그런게 투모 많이 먹히죠. 좀 시당 근데 시험었으나 모두 지야 대화 못 들어. 네, 대화 못 들어 봐라. 못 들어 배치도 동해 당부 못 들으시고. 동해 약고 뭐신 사회제라 아니 동해 뒤 아니 간데스카도 동해 뒤까네 아니 대화 간데스 용그레스. 어디 시당디 아니 람림이다. 시당 투모 많이 받쳐서 돼서
Now, in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, what special, uncommon property do we find, characteristic do we find in it? We find that in the introduction to, in the introducing of great contentment to us, it is introduced to us first through an insistence upon familiarity with suffering. Only with the familiarity with suffering, then, and an understanding that the causes of suffering must be eliminated for it to be annulled, then only is the method for the achievement of contentment shown to us.
어, 되네. 세상 딱 이디 남림 나는 동해 뭐트도 하나 가랑도 미기 지조 나는가 가랑도 미기 르렘베기 데이터네 맞지 동해 용대디 동해 베스너스 동해 뭐네디 말했어. 뭐네디 당에 송구 동해도 뭐 트고 그냥 송구 동해도 뭐 트나 아니 동해 그 약고 뭐 트고 여래서
In a familiarization with agony and pain, a familiarity with the pains known to human beings is only one instance, a mere instance of it. True familiarity with agony and pain is a familiarity with that which is hellish, the experience in the hell realms.
어이 땅에 송구 동해디 야고진 땅에 생구 소외나 동해 이바라 트고 유나 아니 시내다 동해 뭐 트고 공을 아니 내가 잠깐 잡초를 해서
Then when that agony is sensible then, and there is an actual comprehension of sorrow and pain, truly, then there is the basis or the origin for what comes.
어 근데 세상 이제도 맞다 남리나는 남리기 거네마 전에 당고 미다바시 되네 대조 변시 대조니에 가와도 대조 변시의 변시 아니 신의 내주되게 남샤시 내주되게 남샤시 기부 충모도 남주를 버도나시 되네 기부 튕길 남샤 도저히 시에고야 돼 동해 모두 뭐 트고 영향을 탄다 그 버티게 시기 어려서
In the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, beginning at the first step along the way, is the introducing of momentariness, impermanence, of the preciousness of the human body with its advantages and the exceeding difficulty of ever achieving such a precious human rebirth. And this is followed then by the presentation of karmic causality and the dharmas of the lesser scope and of the middle scope. These are for familiarizing us with suffering.
타타들 기부 침묵을 남기는 바시고도 아이 뭐네 냠서 나야지 기부 침묵을 남기는 바시 차되어 이 기부 침묵을 남기는 바시를 좀 따서 닝지 안세는 배 닝지에다 참바다 되네 장주고 쌤 아니 산지지 고바 토고기 왔다 갑자기 유티 마사나 산지지 고바 토고 매봐 진도 시험들 아니 기부 침묵을 남기는 바시 냠명원에 뭐시리 시기요 해서
And this is followed then by the dharmas of the greater scope, which are the actual practice unique to the text. The practices in compassion and love and bodhicitta and the underlying purpose to them, that being the achievement of Buddhahood, where they would be absent, there necessarily being two, no Buddhahood. This is the Dharma of greatest scope and the actual subject of the text.
전다도도 냠내 지어야 되다 기부 침묵을 남기는 바 냠내 지어버려 내 마지나 아니 가르치고 말씀 내와 첨부디 톱그 말해 눈에 참모디 세 두고 말해 일단 눈에 참모디 세 왔다 내와 첨부디 루발라 딱 기부 침묵을 남기 냠내 매도 매로와 차대요 제가 딱 기부 냠서 나야 원에디 기부 침묵을 남기는 바 차기요 해서
This is the Dharma of the great scope. There shown is what must be done to achieve great bliss, to entirely eliminate all sufferings, including the most subtle forms of suffering. To achieve great bliss, to eliminate the most subtle dissatisfactions, one practices the Dharma of the great scope.
나 근데 인도에서 맞다. 되게 아니다. 동해 참모 아까 도야 이때와 침보 톱 도야게 남다 장주고 쌤 전남 장주고 쌤도 고조 장주고 쌤 생이도 율라 깨버 제발라 랑라 깨 도야게 뉴바 가리고르스나 소남 거래 어디 소남 뒤 싹미 치돌라 사야게 타고 쳐도 주바디 양라 두바스 양라 두다 양라 두 시기요 세다 양라 두 시에 양라 두디 냠소 랭네 아니 소놈사 소놈 티기 왕게 아니 장주쌤 귤라게 장주쌤디 귤라게 왜 데불라 아니 대화 첨부 아니 담지게 고 왕생에도 도시 름바 도시 영어를 해서
So to eliminate, to finally remove the most tenacious of discontentments, one practices bodhicitta, the ultimate bodhicitta, the conventional bodhicitta, but in order to ever develop bodhicitta, there must first be sufficient autonomy in the person. In order to ever achieve such autonomy and merit, one must practice, and we practice the 7 branches. And through the practice of 7 branches, the Anuttara Puja, there comes autonomy eventually sufficient for developing bodhicitta, which finally yields for us the omniscient state of great bliss.
다 인도 참바다 자주심 줄라 주. 다 양라 두바디 셰바나다 가다 양라 중앙도 양라 두기다 사상 오늘 조사하다 뭐 가진 가도 남한테 뭐 가도라. 뭐 그래서 망치야 조사하다 뭐 제대 개침부 일이 뭐 마체나 뭐 체나 아니 랑게 다 개와 체비 소남 되게디 아니 마냠기메바 그 고는 폐기요 봐. 뭐 마제나 아니 그랑게 개와 가서 제바 있나야 개와디 냠 숭투 메바 되게 내주 차냐 뭐 개침 뭐 이거 가진 독제 시에요. 그래서
Then the causes for developing the mind of awakening bodhicitta are the accumulation of the 7 branches. We have described the first 6 and the 7th dedication. 2 we've mostly completed. If we fail to dedicate virtues, say we dedicate virtues, say we do dedicate the virtues we have accumulated, those virtues will not be lost. They will be intensified. Where we fail to dedicate a virtue, whatever the virtue was, it is vulnerable to disappearance.
오예 다 근데 배나 요와 당부 양라 당부 투디 배마스 뿌다 보체 아니 타몽어디 마제바이나 아니 당부 투 뭐디 양라 당부 투 뿌다 보체죠디 아니 고 갈래 라도 냠도 그래지 냠나 아니 갈래 제교도 돌아로 왔어 그다음에 비 마냠에야기 탑시 고야 냠 마냠바 공도 패야 탑시 되라 아니 두바 뭐디 인지미지 고고요 뭐디 제바이나 아니 야라 마마디게 제베스 여와디게디 아니 마냠바 공도 패투와디 어디 뭐디 지기요 제가 뭐디 개침부 차기요 그래서
If the first 6 branches were performed admirably, and then one fails to practice dedication well, then those 6 branches virtue will slowly be eroded and the work lost. So then the urgent importance of dedication to preserve a virtue and increase it, increasing the virtues accumulated in the 6 branches. This is the purpose, the preservation of those virtues, the purpose of the dedication.
Oh yeah. 대단하다. 뭐 지도 잠바양. 아니 저도 변화 약 개와 제샤족이. 딱 양라도 뭐라 양라 거기 양라 당부들을 지도 개와 레레 지도 아니 제차와다 뭐 치투고 여와 제차는 뭐 맞잖아요. 바로 여와도 남사마 냠줘야 내가 전부 열었어. 여와 냠발라양 그 강에 주는 야말 그 로직 지조 개와 이나야 니마직을 공로사나 로직 지조사나 개와 강에 냠도 그랬어. 아니 개바직 지조 개와 이나야 드링 니마직 공로 사 지금 공로 수치 뭐 레바이나 거기야 개와 지조 좀 셔로 와서 매와 소셔로 제단다고 매바 마수바 개와 지조디 바 말라고 윤투네 내가 보고 열어. 된대지기 탄다다 뭐한테 제보를 해서
Then in the dedication, the completed virtues of the branches of practice, each one with its virtue, the first, the second, the third, each with its particular virtue, should be followed immediately by the dedication. There hasn't got to be very much of an opening between the virtue and the absent dedication for the virtue to be lost. In the meantime, it isn't difficult at all, no matter the amount of virtue, a year's worth of virtuous activities, followed by a fit of anger are destroyed, and eons worth of virtues too are lost when there is anger in the mind. It happens easily that the virtue is destroyed. What must be done then to prevent this is to make the virtue indestructible through the practice of dedication.
세상다 근데 경고 다 경고도 삼바야 아니 겨와디다 세 디기 치돌데 겨와도 뭐주요 말았어 세상다 뭐 쪽으로 뭐야요 수술 병아 기부 용하쇼 말베 미지디베 기부 용하쇼 병에 가 수술 용버디는 기부 용하쇼 가리다 뭐제요 뭐지 이네요 만족이 다다지 양라 되위체베 겨와지 여바이나 겨와디 아니 수술 계속 뭐고 이유나 아니 세디기 디기치도 뭐주요 말했어 어떤 람림 고난데 송여래서
Then the dedication must be performed. But when it is, virtue oughtn't be dedicated to personal contentment in this life. It's allowed, it's permissible, it may happen. May I find happiness, may I lead a good life, may my country prevail. This is permissible, but in the 7 branches of the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, if one would perform a dedication, it would not be for contentment personally in this life.
that's 나오나 세치마이 배가 사이 밀루토바쇼 아니 사이 룰랑바쇼 세치마이 영화배 동해 마요쇼 대화토바쇼 뭐는 접촉으로 야외 여러 이나양 이 자네 디그리에서 대한 디그 말해서
But in the next life, may I achieve a heavenly rebirth, may I achieve a human rebirth, may I meet with no suffering, may I find only contentment. There are such prayers. They are permissible, but they aren't intended here.
나 아니 맞다 디네야 숨도 구름 슈체를 다데 거에 동에도 들어가쇼 예 송게 내래 탈바쇼 거에 동에를 들어가쇼 네 탈바 토바쇼 말론 야바 이나야 예다 yap초고요 예배요 이나야 디 말은 단다디 겨와체가 되게 비치도 뭐하체 말해서
Though then one may intensify the underlying intention to the dedication further. May I achieve moksha, liberation from samsara. May I achieve liberation from the hell realms. May I achieve moksha and liberation. Such a dedication too is permissible. There exist such dedications, but this is also not intended here.
다 거모그래. 사는 것은 믿어 뭐 거모그래서다 뭐에 가르는 아니 산제지 고반토베 줄라. 다한다 심제 탐제 라야 심제 탐제 탐제 개별 고반로 거베 치도 이삼에 어딘 거와도 쳐버려 손.
Then what? That leaves no place to direct the dedication, where one would direct the dedication, though, is to the cause personally and for all others, the cause of Buddhahood, the omniscient state to be achieved by both each one, oneself, and all others. This is the direction of the dedication.
that 간다 다다 람림 나다마도 람림 디기고 침묵을 람여를 마시기 요래 또 티버 침부 쳐래 아니 기부 침묵을 람여를 마시기 요래 람여를 마시기 요인데 나 꿀롱 쥐도 잡아 아니 랑도 이제 삼바티 파까 아니 신대 뒤바가 삼바도 모두 주네 semje tamje sanji yu salo gobar chigi deji do sanji yu gobar toba chigi saba odi kulung never deji do longo jago reson.
And the performance of the dedication intended in the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, a practice in the Dharma of the great scope, a Mahayana practice. In these stages of Mahayana practice, as one refines the intention underlying the dedication, one divests oneself from self-interest and invests oneself entirely in the establishment of all other living beings in the state of Buddhahood, so that this may come to pass, I myself will achieve Buddhahood. This is the refined intention of the Mahayana.
거의 이 가르치는 만족이 개와 지교디 아니 배추는 세야매봐 간다 도야매봐 세야매봐게 밖에 뭐를 내고요 내고요나 아니 조장을 뭐와 이나 아니 개와 가도요 로바 개와 지교가 되고 왜 대화도 좋아요 말 제가 매번 인자 네 좋아요 매번 고기요 인자 아니 조장도 뭐와 이나 제말 제부대 고기 제부대 좋아요 말 아니 랑사마 예바돌에 고콘도 페이디그리 산 예네 고마 좋아요 말이 아주 페이디그리 손
The dedication is performed, the dedication of accumulated virtues, in this way, so that the virtues remain inexhaustibly, invulnerably. One dedicates virtues to samyaksam Buddhahood, the complete and perfect enlightenment, so that to that which results, the resultant state of Buddhahood, is inexhaustible and invulnerable. The dedication of virtues to complete and perfect Buddhahood remains inexhaustibly until the achievement of personal Buddhahood, and even thereafter is invulnerable and inexhaustible. Excuse me for one moment.
빈저리 이 소내가 소화되어 제 유지되도 뒤진다 취해 이 그리고 그래서
Now, why don't you enjoy the gift from Charlie of a momentary pleasure of a candy? It is a changing satisfaction.
야다 그래서 당만족 하디 제상아서 가르선다 단당아서 콘 개와 뭐 맞잖아 아니 다 개와도 막 폐기 말에 막 용을 좀 주고 해서야겠다 좀 해야게 아니 좀당 될다 대시 대시 자고를 했어 그래서 콘도 지당 콘도 개와 좀봐 양디 콘도 개와 좀당 될라 양 아니 릭망고 요레스 배낭 아주 미 창주 과정어디 랑게 콘도 사사티 아니 랑레 배 냠내 채워 여봐 창주 쌤 냠내 징에 되게 이봐 이나 아니 콜로 초와 제바이나 아니 하장이 배 여와 제조 마무마 데블 좀 주고 요 어디데 열에서
So where we were was the purpose of dedication, performing dedication of virtues to prevent their loss by the force, lost to anger and destructiveness, which has many forms. How does it occur? The destruction of virtue. And it happens in different ways. For instance, should the person against whom you show your anger be a person practicing bodhicitta of qualities surpassing yours, then the virtues you have accumulated will be destroyed, and because of the status of this person, will be all the more destroyed.
여다 이 준주 이제 장게되죠. 나도 나정원은 특별히 되나 열 아다디 니만 뭐 가도 보였다. 이만 두번다 두두두 또다다 이 이만 두번 주 또다다 열다. 준주래 제가 돈도 싸봐야 진짜 대신 쳐라서 내제 가인 대고 이제 콘로 끼지지기 이만 두번 두도 그래.
No.
준주 장동장도
No.
제가 돈도 싸봐야 진짜 대신 쳐라서 내제 가인 대고 이제 콘로 끼기 좀 버체스 제가 돈도 싸봐 제가 돈도 싸배 제가 이나야 콘로 끼지지기 좀 더야 이거 근데 열에서
I'll speak from the Bodhicharya Avatara, the way of the Bodhisattvas, which is quoted at the beginning of the 6th day in the teachings of Pabonga Rinpoche in Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. So right there at the beginning of the 6th day, Pabonga Rinpoche says, no matter how many excellent deeds you may have performed for 1,000 eons, such as generosity or making offerings to Tathagatas, they all perish in one fit of anger. So this is from the way of the Bodhisattva. A moment's anger has the potential to destroy even eons worth of virtues.
어디 어머니 좀 찍지 대줘서 간제 제세 남도 토와이 진짜 주중 예와 깨봐자 사바 끼지 개전 대지 미술 내신 디바 여마이스 어머니 좀 봐. 이제 도대지 담아
And two, quoting from Chandrakirti's engaging in the middle way, when you get angry at the Buddha's children, you destroy in a moment virtue collected over 100 eons through generosity and ethics. So there is no worse sin than losing patience.
야, 세상다 디디 콘도스니 콘도고 니미디 따다 아주 지다 콘도고 니미디 바게다 니미 개버 셰사디 선영어도 자주 쌤 시리도 시어와 이내다 단다 디가서 콘도스니 디기다 가주 여바 가주 게 도그래스나 만주기 깔레 제든 사샤주 개워도 강아 매버 소투야 뮤버디 콘도를 요레스 세상 이디 콘도를 디버쳐와니 가요 말레스 디순거레스.
Here then is the disadvantage of anger. For an extensive description of those disadvantages, we will wait for the explanation, further explanation of the mind of awakening. But here we find the measure of the potency of anger, insofar as anger has the potential to destroy any amount of accumulated virtues. So there is no more grave a mental attitude than anger.
아주 지도나를 이메이나 아주 지도나를 밀레직 녀버도 있게 아니 미치 미파주 소도 있게 미시기 제도 초바이나다 미치 시우 독자베 비고 독자 시우 찌기로 와서 인데 찌기로 이내양 오늘 사무당당다 냠랭이 돈을 채바이나 미 디디 녀버께바 제메나야 미신 찌가 셈기 돈을 마가 채바 콩도 옹도 마가 제샤바이나 이게 제백이 콩도 제백이 이미 뒤당 하다 나도 지도 나로 배 미디 구마를 미디 미세버 두자를 세기 군이기 거기 전례기 전에 깨셔버이나 콩도 제버디 이미 채워요 그래서
Now, ordinarily in society, we say of a person, they harm others. This person's a murderer, this person's a thief, and we consider such people to be bad characters. But if we really reflected upon it and thought in a way informed by spiritual practice, those individuals who harm others, who steal from others, murderers, that is their activity, but far graver, far more serious is the mental attitude of meanness and anger.
세상 딱 거기 전례기 전에 가르친 그는 밀기 봐줘 밀기 소 제바다 밀 내가 제바 뒤쪽에 밀을 바게 내가 제바 뒤쪽에 아니 쇼지게 배 뭐만 사실 디바 냐바 제바다 친중 아니 쇼지게 배 동행이 병거 같은데 지금 말해서 콩도 되게 이말 제배 내비게 냐바 지게 친중은 그거 배 제부 동행 세매가 용거야
양겨지 꺼내 양겨지 쓴다 거나
어쨌든 콩도 이미 뒤당 거기 아주 지도 나라 밀을 고미구마를 미차버려 미고 미세버 세기 지역이 예반이 여러와 예반이부터 콩도데 디버체 가르치는 여러는 콩도 되게 나르기 제백이 개와게 직접 걸 담보 이버들 그 디부지만 뭐벌 동에 용거야 돼 동에 배 잠깐 지도 제버들 동에 망한 용거예요 그래서 디디기 전에 거기 대부 동에 망한 연구요 와도 제일 채워 입에 전에 아니 콘도디 이거 채워 이거 누가 입어 어디 내 상담을 해서
Murder, violence, thievery, and the like are one sort of set of activities. Another is the mental attitude, hostility and anger. These are both with their disadvantages. But it is true that the disadvantage of anger surpasses that of any of the violence described, because unique to anger is that ability to destroy all accumulated virtues and then to ensure lasting suffering afterwards. This is the function of anger as an attitude. And so it is of graver consequence than even these activities.
예, 다른가 거기 나가서 준주다 엄마 주바를 농타야 되나래다. 하중고 콩도 사사기 땡디 장주 선바다 땡 토와데 이나 랑기 디바 망아 정부요 봐. 거기 콩장송 와서 어제다디 콩장야디 아니 제단타 마랑조 유 콩도 치두 아니 바고 콩도 치사기 유디 봐준 거디 샘제 번은 아주 장주 선바 이메 아주 균이 신기 말에 배나 미 파종 샘진이나야 장주 샘바 요래 아니 미나 장주 샘바 용거를 대대지 파주 공로 사서 장주 샘바지 캐바 있나 아니 나는 경천보라 사를 하기 깔리 제조 망고지 매워 차기도 와 제가 진주들이 정부 요바 시험바 전에 공 요반냠내 제 제가 개인도 요래서 공로 이미 시험에 보는 요반냠내 제 제가 개심을 해서
Quoting from the way of the Bodhisattva and entering the middle way, instructed us in the way in which one may be angry toward a particular individual who, unknown to us, is a Bodhisattva, in which case virtues are destroyed. The higher the realization of that other to whom you show your anger, the more the accumulated virtues that are destroyed. We don't know ever very well who is a bodhisattva and who is not. Among the animals, there are bodhisattvas. Among human beings, there are bodhisattvas. Therefore, the need on our part to always be tolerant. The disadvantages to anger are very grave. The advantage of always being tolerant is very great.
딱 계산하고 네가 몸에 가진 것만 되면 딱 콘로가 님이 마저베 시도 모아 쳐버렸어. 근데 모아 시단까지 쉐요. 이내 뒤 콩디 되거든요. 산지에 송나보다 더 자주를 봤는데 거기 뒤워도 지금 맞습니다. 지달이 자주 그 가지지만 이제까지 이들이 와도 지달이 자주 채나 추디룸 자주 마세 봐도 되면서 대신 전 전주 용모 개와 양 장주 마토 봐도 되면서 어디 공디 대창도 어디 산지에 놀러 주시고 저는 어디 참
So the performance of dedication is to preserve invulnerably virtues from the threat of anger. The source, the scriptural basis for the practice is found in the sutra requested by Sagaramati. Just as a drop of water poured into a great ocean will not disappear until the ocean runs dry, so too will virtue dedicated to enlightenment not disappear before enlightenment is gained. This is scriptural basis for the performance of dedication.
예, 세상 이들도 맞다. 만두고 모아치도 잠바. 랑기 체베 개와디 뉴뉴 춘주 장가 여겨. 신기 체베 개와스나 장가 야마도야 망고래. 디나네다 장주선보다 아니 하당 배 장주선보다 아니 군도 상보다 잠배양도 조금 놀음래나. 배 체다 장가 야마도야 근데 세상이도 랑기 체족이 개와 춘주 디 신기 지적이 개와pe 전부 디나를 봤어. nem부 세토나 아니 바족이 개와데 마세 받으라 랑이 개와데 메세 차기요. 제가 그 되게 그 전신부 요가 인자 아니 딱 한다 도장도 모두 아니 그 신기 개와 전부 싸워 디나를 봐. 원 냠도 못 투어 거래서
Personal virtues are exceedingly few, they're countable. The virtues of others, all others, are uncountable. And so, too, among all others are all bodhisattvas. And the dedications performed by them, by Manjushri, by Samantabhadra, their dedications themselves are all-encompassing, uncountable in the virtues they entail, immeasurable in the virtues they contain. So then to admix one's own very few virtues into the vast virtues of all others ensures that those limited virtues remain and makes so meaningful the performance of the dedication to dedicate virtues to samyak sambuddhahood, to complete and perfect enlightenment.
어디 간다 뭐는 들으서 원래 잠배 보고 시들이 쳔보다 본도 상보대야 대신 특제니 교르도 와 얘가 특제니 교래디 아니 가르상 안 하고비 뭐 전부 치신 거 말았지라 이랑 안 하도 지저 뭐 가져 연바이나야 잠깐 유유 미치기 뭐 이제 뭐 고친저로 다 장주선 뭐 본도 상보다 장주 잠배 양게 뭐시도 아니 배뭐 단에 다 치시오는 치시 배뭐도 또 전부 장망보 야침보 ngô rồi sẽ ngô thì đi lúc nó rồi ngô thì là hà giang cái giáo dục nó chỉ全部有吧bây giờ rằng cái kiểu gì chuyên chú thi qua nó chỉ bây giờ rồi ta chú thi qua thì anh giáo dục nó luôn nó chỉ rằng cái kiểu chỉ có cái kiểu gì anh con cái kiểu chỉ có nó bao nhiêu đó thế sao na anh ta chú thi cái giáo dục nó luôn bây giờ giáo nó chỉ thế này 수수기 쇼ngô giáo trình chỉ sinh cái mấy này con ngô chế sao vậy thì tốt gì
We recite the dedicatory prayers in this way, don't we? Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra do realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue, etc. We do defer to the dedicatory prayers of Manjushri and Samantabhadra because they know so well and better than we how to perform these vast dedications. Their dedications are exceedingly powerful, contain multitudes of virtues, and because they do, those virtues of others are likened to an ocean of virtues, and our own personal virtues likened in their limitedness to a single drop, which we might drip into this vast ocean so that the limited virtues remain mixed with the vast virtues, an ocean of virtues of others, their dedication performed by bodhisattvas with an understanding of how to perform dedication. Then if one performs the dedication, understanding the rationale that the virtues become through the dedication invulnerable and inexhaustible, unchanging until the achievement of personal Buddhahood, and afterward, that we perform dedication to make the virtues invulnerable. Understanding this so, and then dedicating through prayer, we experience the results of this well-informed practice. And the verses of dedication are these: through this king of aspirations, which is the greatest of the sublime. through this king of aspirations, which is the greatest of the sublime, helping infinite wanderers in samsara, through the accomplishment of this scripture, dazzling with Samantavadra's practice, may suffering realms be utterly emptied of beings. Through the practice of offering, prostration, confession, rejoicing, request to turn the wheel of Dharma, request not to pass into nirvana. Through the accomplishment of these, may the suffering realms be utterly emptied of beings. This, the seventh branch, dedication, is the dedication of virtues to samyaksam Buddhahood, to the cause of awakening. This you must understand.
我也其实早上了我有了，就大家我早上了我积极，啊，最近我觉得我开全部我哪能没不是我能大去送这就是，他经常的积累，他当不的，给这早上了我些，已经这了，但你不的了，因为给这的，你他们就真不了我是，三节给点不，那个他们就真不了我是，弄的多不给点不，真不被三节给被弄的。 산지가 템바 유르도 내가 쇼 송화치기도 하고 들었었다. 템바 유르도 내야 되라 룽기 템바도 또베 템바 니어로. 저 룽기 템바도 또베 템바도 유르 부베스. 내가 쇼 스만은 자디 아니 뭐는 자치 니버들레스. 아니 숨바데 다 텐데기 산지지 고바 토바 줄어 들어와다. 아니 산지가 템바 유르도 내버 제발라. 아니 내버 제발라. 라마 탐베게 한거 랑기다 간다게 라메게 제수 쯤바도 고거 저도 산지게 라마 꾸지 땜바 당 라마게 제수 쯤바 치도 모았다고 숨디 아니 모아는 왜 자시 쇼숨 쓰기 어려서
The dedication of virtues to samyaksam Buddhi, to complete and perfect enlightenment, is one of three unsurpassed dedications. So the first of these three unsurpassed dedications is the dedication of virtues to complete and perfect enlightenment. The second is the dedication of virtues to the preservation of the Buddha Dharma of realization and of scripture, to the long lastingness of the teachings of the Buddha. This is the second dedication. And for there ever to be dedication of virtues to complete and perfect enlightenment, and for there to ever be the teachings of the Buddha remaining, there must be the Guru, and so the dedication of virtues to the long life of the Guru and to being held in the steady care of the Guru. These are the three unsurpassed dedications.
모알라는 매바 숨스는 다가다 모아치 신기 수수고 모아치 뒤져봐 딘데는 모아이나 아니 모아디 빼다 세바 매바 가도 있는 세미 두바 안다베 고고야 패줘야 뭐도 많이 함줘야 매백이 모아차기 어쩌다 콜로 모알라는 매바 쓰고 그래서
These are the three unsurpassed dedications. When one performs one such unsurpassed dedication, the virtues are inexhaustible. The virtues only increase. There is never any loss of any accumulated virtue.
도저히 다 딘데래 저도 모아디다 딘다니 쓰는 게 모아디 셰바르 저도 모아디 지나다 가지고 예님한테는 야라 둥고 나네 야라 당부디 차서와 쳐버표와 아니 디네 디바샤바세 디바샤바다 제수이나 니부디 냠내 냠도 치신고 냠도 제도 냠내 디바샤 당우랑게 디바체발로 디바이바 모시 아니 바샤 샤서도 녜베 디바샤 투도 베자비하고 총소선 제수이랑 오코니 냠도 냠내 냠도 치신고 해소노스.
Now, for 2 weeks, then we've described dedication, and it follows the other 6 branches. The first branch of prostration, followed by offering, followed by confession and rejoicing. Confession and rejoicing are to be practiced together. One acknowledges, realizes and acknowledges responsibility, confesses in responsibility, recognizes that one has done this, and this is worthy of rejoicing and celebration. So the confession and the rejoicing go together.
예, 되는 이러와 제도이나 되는 마바데 추주 콜로코 꾸와다 아니 두 번째 양갈림도 소왔다 봤어. 어다 뒤주 강가 소왔다 배도 강가 아니 배나 다 추주 콜로코로다 소와 맞담나 아니 산제 있는 추주 콜로코고요 말잖아. 마고로 이나 비제줄 람도 보줄 지 말았잖아. 제가 인지미지 추주 콜로코로나 소왔다 보래. 소왔다 배 나시 아니 배다 단단한 소왔다 사디 소신을 소왔다 그이 아니 수주 밖에 소식이 가서 말렌 야야스 렌나에 가야 말 이내 취주 콜로코 소왔다 만나지 시지 세송 삼바 어디서 쳐버렸어 아니 양갈에다 소왔다 발아야 아니 베스타 단계다 주선 받은 졸라 아니 수수가 라와 요르 때 이내 라와 요나양 아니 심제기 소왔다 받을 때면은 아니 건도 양갈 마다 마슈바제 베자물이 챤나 패도 올라서 소왔다 받을 개체 버렸어 소왔다 보고 소왔다 배는 주구요랬어 어디지 아니 이바들 랑이 냠내잖아 자고 취주 콜로콜로 고왔다 소왔다면 랑이 빌어 빠고지는 제야 이거래 아니 양갈에면도 소왔다 보는 수술을 거기 책이 팔지 마요 세를 못 내야 어디지 손은 더구요래서
The fifth branch of requesting the wheel of Dharma to be turned. The sixth, requesting the teacher not to pass into nirvana. These two follow. Failing to request the wheel of Dharma to be turned, the wheel of Dharma is not turned by the Buddhas. When the wheel of Dharma is not turned, then there is no arising in the mind of any realization. So the request must be made, and the request is made as it may be made to the visualized merit field. In their response is an acceptance of the request. The Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas are independent. Nevertheless, if they are not requested to turn the wheel of Dharma, then they do not. If they are not requested to remain, then they do not. So one makes the request to turn the wheel of Dharma. And when one does, then too, one primes oneself to develop realization. From the standpoint of one's own practice, making the request to turn the wheel of Dharma has that purpose. Requesting the Guru not to pass into nirvana has the benefit of reducing the obstacles one personally faces and ensuring some longevity for oneself in their practice.
저 주버디 선대 메델 진이지다 양 선대 메델이 양랑아바기 나려야 최배 양랑나려야 데 아니 저 주버디 아니 버게 단다디 맹아돼야 돼 선대 맹아돼야 돼 근데 냠내 난다 그래 버니 요래서
아니 책 아니 만달라 아니 소
메델라 그런 게
데 드롭바데라
주벌 진이지 찍디 나바기 최배기 양랑나려야지 아니 주버딩 어디 조지 되는 저와 조지 선대 로스 되는 저와 어디 냠내 진이
또 되는데 드롭바데라
그걸 진이지 어디 되게 다 냠내 지나니 요래서
And we find in the fifth of the preparatory rites, the offering of the 7-limb prayer and a world mandala. There are two forms of practice. In one of these, the mandala world offering is performed as part of this fifth branch, leaving the sixth branch for further petitions which follow the oral instructions. 다들 전에 찍라니 디 만달라 부어디 아니 주포데라 찍이라. And in another, the mandala world offering itself is the sixth of the preparatory rites. So here there is the one tradition in which the offering of the world mandala is included in the fifth branch, and the sixth is dedicated to further petitions, and another in which that mandala world offering is the sixth preparatory rite. And here in this tradition, the mandala world offering is included in the offerings in the fifth, the offering of the seven limb prayer as the fifth preparatory rite. Here then, the mandala world offering is considered part of the offering of the seven limb prayer, and then followed by the sixth preparatory rite, which is the further petition, the supplication of the Guru, and the descent of purifying nectar. Next week, we will turn to this, the sixth preliminary practice of supplicating the Gurus and the performance of the descent and purification through nectar. Our time is up now, and so we conclude here.
Oh yeah, that's the matter. Lama don't dengale. You keep your chance. I never rangi chulo matim. Ani rangi chulo titu tabe mi wa chegi tam. That do zip your jang mi wa singing that catch bushra yore. Odi sangi to that jaman ala share yin and tanda. Dini mata and semna tawasa de yaba. Ani dong as I am a turtle in chuko at the day. Nani to this day yore this turtle and then not on nonsense.
And then next week, this all-important practice of nectars descending from the 5 groups of gurus, descending into each one's mind stream, purifying that mind stream of non-virtues and stains. This important practice we will describe further next week. Now, if you have any doubts, if we ought to have a back and forth in the Q&A, then let's do so. If you have any doubts. No question. Probably there are. Wouldn't there be? Oh.
So Yeshua is describing that the Bose is the omniscient state of great bliss, but my question is, are the Bodhisattvas and the Buddhists somehow not so content because of the state of sentient beings in samsara? Don't they have also at the same time some kind of discontentment about the state of samsara?
Or any basically and basically the harisa hobja 타르트까지 아니 대화 침보다 아니 남바 가르사 남시 남킨 세리디르와 아니 이내야 아니 상계당 장습 심바 대다 포르와라 시그네 아니 표와 양면아 다니 메데와 근데 메드로 포르와기 네츠라 지그네 심 토쿄에 연아 야메나 메데와 된데 연아
나 대화 그거야 타도 대화 생기다. 그게 타도 그 대화 되라 유지제도 두마지 니 모션 거라 해서지. 유지제도 두마지 니 유지지 남친세 두마지니 오페드라 봐. 어디다디 타도 대화 첨부세 대화 니세
알아 남친디
유지기 대화
지지 라라
고대니 두마지 대화세 어디 니니 지금 모션 거라 해세 하여튼에 사제도 자주 선바 저기 콜 요시제선 거다 콘족이 콜 견도 따그래 콜 견도 따네 콜랑 콜 견도 따네 탈 탑체바나지 신 콜 껴버체니 코웨기 내당되는 거 견도 따그래 해서 견도 따고 코딜 내서도 동해제라지마도 매버 이 콘족이 더 그런 신기 여러 뒤따게 해서
understand that in the ultimate state of great bliss, there are two forms to that great bliss. There is the compounded great bliss and the uncompounded great bliss. The compounded great bliss is the omniscient state. The uncompounded great bliss is cessation, nirodha. So understand that. Regarding the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, they acknowledge, they recognize, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas recognize the disadvantage to life in cyclic existence, just as they recognize the great disadvantage to samsara and strive for personal liberation. They recognize the disadvantage to sentient beings of cyclic existence and strive for their liberation. But this is the recognition of the drawbacks and faults of samsara, that there's only discontentment, but it is only this, it is the recognition of this.
거의 산제도 자주선 받은 좀 먼저 너무 오마스를 도와 너무 오마스에 가르스나 타니데 가르스나 시다 시보코에타 시원양되게 타스 타니를 말롱와 길을 도토인다 너무 오마를 내봐스 어쨌든 건조기 양면기도 아니 코알을 끼얹도 따는 코알을 타르바지 양대를 끼얹도 랑도 분위기 양대를 끼얹도 따는 양대를 만해봐 아니 탐지기도 고관 그거 치와인다 아니 너무 오마를 내봐스 그런 게 따기를 해서
We speak of a middle way. That is the middle way between the two extremes. The two extremes are the extreme of quiescent peace on the one extreme, and the extreme of cyclic existence and the extreme of quiescent peace. The middle way finds the way between the two. Liberation from samsara avoids the extreme of samsara. Divestment from self-interest avoids the extreme of quiescent peace and causes the achievement of the omniscient state of Buddhahood. So we speak of the middle way.
내가 간다 전주 삼바다 산제 저기 그런 쪽에 다 미유디 대화 첨부 세팅도 대시자 대화 첨부디 건조기다. 그 급제다 말하면 대화 첨부제. 다 딜라야 용야를 용색 랑가디 대대지 용거를 콜로 용도 좀 람 노르사도디 야면은 마시버 콜 탈 찍거나 시버 콜을 공부를 야면은 스타치를 넣는 시원냐데 수수 아니 수수 지부치도 탈바고 와 산이고 그 산이랑마다 다지로 고마토베 인도다 란제 고마토베 저저와 어디 거기 타니지 거기를 말 홍해 년가요 딜레 말롱아 아니 대화 전부 토바 토베 람 딜레다스 코나도 다 람테야나 공부시에도 어떻게 지어래서
In the intent of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas is the intention to great bliss, which they do achieve. And they present the means to its achievement. And the inerrancy of those means are the inerrancy insofar as never do they cause the two extremes, either of the two extremes, or involve themselves in the two extremes, never involved in the extreme of cyclic existence, never either involved in the extreme of quiescent peace, which is nevertheless self-interested on the part of any arhat, shravaka, pratyeka Buddha. They abide in quiescent peace selfishly. Seeing these two extremes, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas instruct without any error in the middle way beyond the two extremes. And this is the intention of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas.
Yeah, I should but
Any others?
I have a question from Sanjana. He says, Ishiva talk about the difference between appropriately reprimanding ourselves after we've transgressed a vow and having a problematic or unhelpful level of anger towards ourselves when we which is what I think about.
Da den di sujati gine tiwati kurgyosa ane ngaya tiwati ngarange simla yana yandu koryong dusa ane jojo gidan sonso jiza lasa ngazo 동화 식 니아바직 중네 아니 교쌤 숙지먹게 연구도서 얘는 교쌤디 셀레 게네 소소라 맥네 콘로다보 아니 랑웨 시든데 자기도 다 아니 게시게 아니 탑람 아니 책 된낭의 여배 가인스는 삼삼라 아니 니아바든데 중네 교쌤 케네 교슴디 셀레 게네 아니 소소라 맥네 소소 콘로기 시 라고 차기도 근데 네편 또보인 게 말해 제자네 탑랑 근데 가르땐가
나 교심생의 교가 동부한 교심생 지금 오셔 버렸어 교심 나 다른 것도 오늘 전에 산인 것도 심주고 나서 교심생의 심주고 나서 요 심주고 다지나 요다 생지시 예버디 아주 심중가 좀 아직 되게 나는 용유시 봐. 다 교바생이 예월에 교바 요래 미개월 교바 요래스 제가 다 가리 먼저로 거야 돼 가서는 미개월 교바디 거야 돼. 예월에 교바디 다 디버래. 봐. 제가 교바들 당고 링이 요바디 당고 디버르시나 좀 뭐섬나 예월에 해서
Now, regarding remorse is counted among the mental factors. Next week, we will explore further mental factors in remorse, for instance. But I need you to understand that one may feel remorse in a virtuous action. One may feel remorse for a non-virtuous action. Both may occur. But what is constructive is the remorse felt for a non-virtuous action. When one is remorseful after virtue, this itself is a negativity.
뭐야? 다 근데 인도 다 아주 미개월 교바생데 그냥 아주 수수기 내가 지난지 마지 밀을 롱템바이나 자 밀을 직내 쇼 아당에 디마 송삼네 이 교수님 깨바이나 교바 빼야 한 타바레스 그냥 수수기 내가 내 여지체 신을 판도로 제 신을 갈라도 제 신을 하게 로봇도 제 아니 가지고 지단으로 맞은 아가다네 맞은 따다인들이 대삼 수수 교바께서나 그 교바티 예바 두개 차대요. 그래서
When one is remorseful for a non-virtue, for instance, one grows angry at another or harms another, and afterwards is remorseful, this is as it should be. But when one has done something constructive and virtuous, given to the hungry or been helpful to another, and then afterwards reflects, oh, I shouldn't have done that. This remorse is not constructive.
일단 이만 주고지는 삼보다 대신 뭐 직제. 다 단다 지랑이 여바 셀레 개바세 당 앞에 빼는 당기 여바 야가 되는 배다 가주 축침부께네 그 야가 주제. 야 랑게 참참다 단다 지랑도 삼보다도 좀 수수기 직 레가도 제네 레가데 배 수수 셈바단 꿀롱 축침부 쉬우지 땅 아니 꿀롱 땅 나신 랑게 제마도도 아니 랑게 셈나래 아다 되게 용 말씀 되게 깨기로와 되게 뒤고 이게 레데 이나야 그 야가지나 그 야가지 수수 뭐시면 지도나 내가 요 말씀 이네 다 수수기 직 야 교바디 배 교바기 뭐로 맞대버지 셀로 괜고 요거 뭐로 저 그거도나 그때 잠시 하고 해서
So firstly, these should be kept straight. They should be kept straight because the idea of remorse or regret growing excessive would only apply where the remorse isn't well connected to a non-virtue. For where there's remorse for a non-virtue, there's no excess in that remorse. It doesn't grow excessive. But when, for instance, one says, this is my project, they take that up as their project, animated very strongly by their motivating intention, then they do not succeed in that project, and then conclude I'm incapable of any success in it. Such a scenario is possible. But there you must look carefully to understand what is useful and what sort of remorse would be constructive. And if you keep these straight, then excessive remorse that becomes counterproductive will be avoided.
버진다 지나는 교복을 생기는 이게 그렇게 달려요. 교복이 막 콘도 이미지도 교복을 샘중시도 교복을 다 가사를 내버려 니도 전화기한테 도와마세는 니도 연구 권투가 따로 제소.
We will explore remorse again in the context of the mental factors, and as we do, then we'll continue to address this concern of yours. we can conclude here, but if there are any further questions, we can take those too.
아니 그 지금 까마지 또 그래서 다 여바싱이다 여바싱이디 아니 나도 다 개원하는 제대쇼 아니 배나 다 나도 일단 개월 여바신 지겨 말스 개월 여바 제바이나 그 디벌 가지고 디벌 개월 여바 제바이나 아니 그 개월 그거 제가 그이 만으로 진 지도에 대해 당부도 개침부터 다니 건도 지시하고 연구건 지시하고
Now we have a moment or two about remorse or regret. In virtuous practices, this may come easily to us, but one mustn't develop remorse or regret for any virtuous action, because then the virtuous action is transformed into a non-virtue, has been transformed into a non-virtue. But two, where there is a non-virtue that causes one remorse, then that non-virtue then is transformed into a virtue. So understand that.
어, 이거 샥바카도가 그냥 매치해야 되나요? 여바지 열어서 샥바카도. 님부터 없이기 나네, 님부터 없이기 나네. 님부 들어 담보도 되게 또 너무 수준이 또 되나? 제가 여바지 열어서 여바치 해봐라. 여바치 해도 제가 여바치 해도 여바치 해도 여바치 해야 돼. 님부터 없이 나는 직차를 해서.
In the performance of a confession, remorse is involved. In the four antidote powers, the first being the antidote power of the support, then there is also the antidote power of remorse. So remorse is involved too in the antidote powers and confession.
다들 이제부터 수수이 한직 밖에 빼는 여바도 제가 유당 되게 온이야. 여바 첨부 쳐야 된다라야. 여바 용하다 랑이 직 여바 채차가 온 거야. 수술한테 마대어들 용 시기를 인해양 뒤도자뭐 탑시에도 다다처럼 탑시에서도 탑시에서도 그 여바 제대로다 이게 여바 제가 지송 삼배나 가서 첨부 유나 거기 여바들 여바 마요 직 팽기로 와. 아니 일하다 간다 고양 직 쇼지 수술 마대 연구이나 그 데스 제비 잡투네 마디고 요 말해서
So also, when there are differences in the experience of remorse, depending upon the basis for the remorse felt and the moment when it is felt, at which time, in reference to such a basis, one might feel the remorse to be excessive and uncomfortable. Such a circumstance may occur. So that's why I emphasized that you have a method, you have a means to approaching remorse constructively. You might feel the remorse, and then you can appreciate your own practice of remorse, celebrate that you had the responsiveness to your actions to feel remorse, and then the remorse is less likely to become excessive and cause you discomfort. And as you apply your different means to feeling remorse, you can make adjustments so that it doesn't become uncomfortable for you.
Oh yeah, me on the Shamman.
So should we conclude here and recite our closing prayers?
What to say? Walk. Ngồi chuyện gì sẽ chế bảo là tên này, anh ta làm gì? Để khán giả ngồi cái chế bảo là tên này, ngồi chế bảo mà xin chế này làm cái kéo chế bảo tụi ya phê bảo mà nhà bảo thì cái sự cái gì sản phẩm trong cuộc đời số.
So now, in an exchange about the performance of dedication, instructing in it, and listening to the instruction, and all the virtues that it entails, that this virtue may be dedicated, then knowing this, do dedicate it in our closing prayers. Lome mare ge jong go wa nam re ge we hom por da gere je Dharma sunde zera gundu ya jande yang ge tsewe je zo Tembe remba kunzang gang ge jo ni ne robe gyan ni je jo Rangi jijin tobe langi ne shuja sewe changwe tagi Gongwe yigi mba seje ne gyawe tenpa yudrin zingyo chi Tenpa rinjin choge ma gyaba Gyabgyan nyambar girve chode ne Ninje chenpo yira gyaba yi Pende terje sewar jebar jo Seje gyawe menjun chenle le jo chanjo langye renpe kya Tarde namgi yila pede je Gyawe sebar rindu yangir je Lanzan rube tunjin roje jin Yagin seje midam Tera kundu gyawe mabayi Namda lamdan javar magyuji Kanze tegwa chula chujuji Sujin rula tumba deyi Rupden namge tabdun roji Taji gyatro chugun gyage For my two collections, vast the space that I have amassed.
It's practice for a good length of time. Yeah, good. Buddha for all those whose minds was in eyes, mind guidance. Even by the state, gave out, and then compassion on my confusion. May I find the best of the past with complete teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings. With the points of the path as I have discerned them, may I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teaching is not yet spread or when spread as decline, may I offer this treasure of happiness to eight all sentient beings. May the minds of those that wish for liberation and to confidence peace, and the Buddhas need to be nourished for a long time. By following the graduated path to enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons, may all human and non-human beings have one in the universe and may be conducive for practicing the excellent path, never departed in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone needs effort to act in accordance with the tenfold millennium of virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones and the oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.
Dagi jenye zabe jewa di tena ruwa kuna kambe kebar jezu losan raba yi tembe nyembo rendo seje sho kare rave gove shingande pendan dewa malu jombe tere sewa tenze jazo yi Shabe Sidi Badu Tenju Shi Jambe babu jidar Chenmo na kundu sambu deyan deshi Teta kunji jesu talo je jewa teta tamje rado Yuzo shebe jewa tamje je ngova kama chodo nawa Tagi jewe zawa dikunya Sambo jeje rado ngova je Chanju senjo rimbo je maje rana je Yewa nyamba meba
I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa shine forever. In the land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Shinrezi Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until cyclic existence is ended. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantha do, realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue, with the dedication praised as the best, by the victorious Afghan ones of the three times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. May the supreme jewel Bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Thank you, everybody.